it's about. So theme is an idea that recurs in a book again and again. What do I mean when I say theme is an idea that recurs in a book again and again?
That they might happen over
It happens
a couple times.
Well, it happens a lot over the book. So theme is something that one character doesn't just say the theme at the beginning of the book and then it's over. Theme comes up throughout the story. It's the big unifying thing that ties it all together. So if you think about a story without a theme, it would be a little disorganized. It wouldn't quite have a point. So theme is an idea that ties it together, that recurs throughout the book. Theme is the perception about life or human nature that the writer shares with the reader. That could be one thing. Have you ever read a book where you learn something about the characters and you learn something about yourself through reading it?
Yeah.
You probably all have. So then we know that the theme might be something that really relates directly to us and that we can learn from. So there's a theme in pretty much every book. Some themes are about love or war or big topics like that. Other themes can be a little closer to home. So we'll take a look at some themes coming up. And in paragraph number 5, we're going to be discussing the book's theme or meaning. So the book's theme is also kind of its meaning, its message. For example, the book is about how imagination enriches our lives, the differences between the way kids look at the world and the way adults look at the world. Through his characters, Watterson also comments on the foolishness of many aspects of modern life. So this is for Calvin and Hobbes, and the theme is about how imagination enriches our lives, the difference between the way kids look at the world and the way adults look at the world, and also the foolishness of many aspects of modern life. So there you see the themes. So what is the difference between a theme and a moral?
The moral is what it teaches you at the end of the book usually.
Yeah, so
and the theme.
Yeah, very good. Oh, and sorry, go on.
And the theme is like
Who would like to give me? Who wants to give me an example of a story that has a moral?
The tortoise and the hare.
I'm sorry?
The tortoise and the hare.
The tortoise and the hare. Yeah, exactly. The tortoise and the hare. Now, would anyone like to tell me what is the moral of that story?
The fastest never wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, slow and steady wins the race. Right, everyone knows that from the tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady wins the race. So that would be a moral. Now, we don't really see too many themes like slow and steady win the race because a theme isn't so much telling you do this or do that, but a theme is sharing thoughts perhaps about a topic and using the overall story to explore that idea as opposed to saying do this. So that would be one difference. Now, it's interesting also to take a look at the fact that a story that has a moral could also have a theme, which might be different. So, let's see. A theme, okay, there's also a good list of themes coming up, but a theme does not need to relate to behavior and may be less conclusive than a moral. So, an author might explore the idea and allow readers to draw his or her own conclusions. That's another difference. The moral might tell you what to think. The theme might allow you to form your opinion about it. And obviously this varies over lots of different books. Now, a book may have more than one theme. So, would anyone like to give me an example of a theme from their book?
The theme for my book is fiction. Well, that's a genre.
Yeah, that's a genre. Actually, you brought up a good thing. Genres are, now, when you look at a story, there are lots of things to consider. Character, plot, setting. Genre is another one. There isn't a whole presentation dedicated to that, but the genre would be things like historical fiction, fantasy, and it's a good idea to maybe bring that up at some point, but it's not absolutely crucial. Okay, so yeah, a book's theme is different from its genre. The genre is the type of book it is. So fiction, historical fiction. The theme is the meaning of the book or the underlying message in the book. So let's take a look. Here we go. Finally, the themes from a series. So here are some themes. The dangers of blind obedience, the importance of thinking for yourself, the importance of friendship, the importance of loyalty, the importance of courage, the power of self-sacrifice, choosing between what is right and what is easy, the power of community, the stupidity of judging someone because of their background or family history, the complexity of love, the human potential of change and grow, the potentially dangerous stupidity of bureaucracy, the idiocy of always going along with the herd, and the accompanying potential for evil, the unscrupulousness of the media, and coming of age. Does anyone want to guess what series these themes are from?
Series of books. Well, we did have Cameron books. Why
This one might be, sometimes the thing with themes, well, like if I gave you a setting, you might not immediately know what the book is, and theme is kind of like that in that you can't necessarily always look at a theme and know what book it comes from, because looking at something like the complexity of love, well, how many books can you name that have that theme? A lot. However, looking at one that has all of these, or a series of books, so there are a few books that these could apply to, but one that comes to mind for me is Harry Potter, because of some of the things are the potentially dangerous stupidity of bureaucracy that might apply to the Ministry of Magic in the story. It kind of depends on which books you read, but yeah, a lot of these themes could apply to several different books. What are some themes that you see here that might be able to apply to a different book?
I think it could apply to Ella Enchanted just because of the importance of courage and friendship. I mean, and self-sacrifice.
Yes, that is a very actually.
Because
Yeah, that's a really good point. Oh, sorry, I keep on the time delay. I keep on saying something. I hear you and I stop. Go ahead. Sorry, say the rest of it.
And like she needs to go against her nature to break the curse.
Exactly. Yeah, very good. Ella Enchanted actually is a good one because that has a lot of things. So friendship would definitely be one in there, and we see this in a lot of books. The importance of friendship. I mean, there are a lot of books that have that theme. Also courage and to some extent self-sacrifice, because Ella is definitely not a selfish person. She has to live with that curse. And then also it might be a little bit of coming of age. I'm not completely sure, but a lot of books have coming of age as well. So those are a few themes that might apply, not just to Ella Enchanted, but quite a few books. What are some other books that some of these themes might apply to? Well, what about coming of age? Can anyone think of a book that has coming of age as its theme, or as theme?
11 Birthdays by Wendy Mass.
Right? Can you highlight that? Okay. So, any other books that have coming of age as a theme? Well, if you, now, again, to bring up characters changing over the book, a lot of books you'll see, they might not necessarily be, oh, this person grows up, but just changing over the course of the book and perhaps becoming more of an adult. That would be a coming of age story and learning from experiences. What about choosing between what is right and what is easy?
There's a movie on that.
Okay.
I know a movie. The Love Guru.
Oh my goodness. I have not seen that movie, but I've heard that it's exceedingly ridiculous. Having seen the post.
It is.
Yeah, I think I do. Okay. So, and yeah, if you open this up to all kinds of fiction, there will be a ton of movies that deal with all of these things. For instance, the complexity of love, I'm sure is dealt with there. What about, let's see, the power of community? Have any of you ever seen a movie or read a book about the power of community? Has that as a theme? asking is because we read a lot of books where people are coming together and being supported by their city or by their community. So yeah, these are definitely, quite a few of these themes will apply to a lot. And this is just to show you examples of what theme is, I suppose. So you see these messages and the points, I guess, or the meanings of books. And themes will come across, there might be 5, 10, even 20 themes in a good-sized book, and so you do want to identify some of the biggest ones. Now, the author might not state the theme directly. In fact, they usually don't. They don't usually say, oh, this is about the unscrupulousness of the media. No, instead, they would use examples, they would weave the story, and it ends up kind of showing you that. The author demonstrates the idea through the actions of characters and the outcomes of these actions. Now, I know we were talking about how morals and themes are different, but just to use the tortoise and the hare as an example, they don't immediately say, like they don't say at the beginning of the book, slow and steady wins the race, but they show the tortoise and the hare, they use that example. And obviously theme is a little different, but you still don't come out with a theme right away and say, oh, here's the theme. You want to back it up with those scenes or with those characters. So for example, in the Harry Potter series, does anyone remember Rita Skeeter?
Yeah.
Yes, so Rita Skeeter is this dishonest journalist, for the rest of you guys who haven't come that far. Then J.K. Rowling shows that the media could be untrustworthy through the actions of the dishonest journalist Rita Skeeter, who uses this magical pen to distort everything that Harry says. So he says one thing, this magical pen writes another that will get readers, and it sounds very sensational. Now, obviously, J.K. Rowling doesn't just say the media can sometimes be untrustworthy. She goes and uses this example of Rita Skeeter, and most likely it's not to get the point across, but it's a theme that happens as a result of that.
Field students who are leaving tomorrow, your flight will be you have to be at the airport in Glensalong for 10:20 tomorrow morning. So those students traveling for track and field must be at the airport in Glensalong for 10:20 tomorrow morning.
Wow, what's the thing with going to the airport?
Track and field.
Oh, okay.
There's 6 of us going. 6 each.
Wow. Where are you flying off to?
Oklahoma. And I'm going to St. John's in Quebec.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
About a 2 to 3 hour flight from here.
No.
So it'll be about 600 kilometers west. Still have about 4,000 more to go before we get to your place.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a really fun trip. Actually, my sister used
We
to.
live in the middle of
I'm sorry?
We live in the middle of nowhere practically.
Oh, well, at least you have an airport, right? I mean, as long as there's an airport, it's really not in the middle of nowhere because you're connected to other places that are somewhere, right? But I can sympathize with living in the middle of nowhere because I live in a city. I mean, and we're right nearby a major city, Seattle, but my sister's always complaining about how boring life is still. But back to topic. So we see the themes pop up, and the writers might not be trying to get the point across necessarily, but it often happens. You'll see these themes that kind of pop up as a result of the storyline. And theme is really tied in quite a bit with plot. So if you look at the paragraph you read about plot and what happens in the book, then you might want to think, are there any kind of meanings to some of these things that happen? Is there a theme underlying this? So here are some tips for writing about theme. When you write about theme in your response to literature, you have 3 goals. State 1 or more of the book's themes. So usually there will be 1 or 2 really important themes that tie the whole book together. And then there might be some littler themes along the way. Provide examples of how the author demonstrates the theme or themes. And in this case, demonstrate that the themes are meaningful or interesting. So what makes them so special? So firstly, you want to think of a theme in your book. So for example, the importance of friendship would be a theme, or the importance of loyalty, or the dangers of blind obedience. So those are a few from Harry Potter that I came out. So or the difference between kid reality and adult reality. That would be another theme. So state 1 or more of your book's themes. Does anyone want to share one of their book's themes?
Humor?
Well, remember So the theme would be something like coming of age or the importance of loyalty. So which book are you doing?
The Great Cow Race.
Okay, the Great Cow Race, good. So a theme of that might be, let's see. So the Great Cow Race is where they make the mistake and then they have to wash dishes for the rest of their life, right?
Yeah.
So do they learn along the way? Do they learn along from the beginning to the end? Have they learned something?
They learn in this book, but in the rest of the series,
What do they learn?
they probably learn that to not go too far with things that they do.
Very good. So that might be a theme. Maybe the danger, why it might not be good to go too far with the things that you do. That might be a good theme. Also, if they become better friends over the course of the book, that might be another theme, friendship. Or if it's kind of coming of age, you could also write about that. So definitely that would be a good thing to write about their mistake and what they might learn from that. Who else would like to share a theme from their book?
The theme of my book is the importance of royalty.
I'm sorry?
The theme of my book is the importance of royalty.
The importance of royalty. What is your book about?
Loyalty.
Oh, loyalty. Okay, I was wondering, the importance of royalty. I wonder what this book is about. Yeah, the importance of loyalty. Very good. So, how does your book demonstrate the importance of loyalty?
I forget what loyalty
What are your friends?
Well, there's this character who lies to his friends that he knows everything where to go with that, and at the end of the book they end up lost, and then I don't know what happens after that. I never read the next book.
Okay, well, that's a pretty good idea. Yeah, that would be a very good thing, the importance of loyalty, and maybe also the importance of telling the truth. If he lied about, this, and he ended up getting himself into trouble, that might be another thing, the importance of telling the truth. So, very good, that would be one of the book's themes. Now, this is the second part. Provide examples of how the author demonstrates the theme or themes. So, for instance, if I was doing the unscrupulousness of the media in Harry Potter, I would use that bit about Rita Skeeter and her magical pen as an example to show that. If I was writing about the difference between kid reality and adult reality in Calvin and Hobbes, then I might use an example of how Calvin imagines himself as Spaceman Spiff, and he thinks that he's going off onto distant planets when his parents just see him trying not to eat his vegetables. So I would use that example to show the theme, the difference between kid reality and adult reality. Now, what is an example from your book that backs up your theme?
My theme is about the dangers of being a child around the time of the World War, because an example is because her family kept a Jew in their basement for a while, and then the Jew ran away because he thought he was putting them in danger. So then one day when the parades of Jews were walking by, he was there, and she ran out to see him, and she got whipped by a soldier.
Okay, very good. Now, what you mentioned actually, if you remember, let's see, back at the list of themes, then there was one of them here was choosing between what is right and what is easy, and that would be a great example, talking about how her family hid a Jew in their basement, which would obviously be a very dangerous decision because they could be punished for that very harshly, and so that would be choosing between what is right to help someone else when they're being persecuted unjustly, and also what is easy to just turn your back. So that would be another theme that definitely has a role in your choosing between what is right and what is easy. Very good. So you can use that example to back that up. Who else would like to give me an example from their book that supports their theme?
It's your book. In other words, you're just proving your point.
Yeah, I still I'm not completely sure on that.
So tell me what your book is about.
It's about a girl and her friend, well, one of her friends gets murdered and she tries to figure out who it was.
Okay, wow. So it's kind of a mystery then.
Yeah.
So it's a mystery story. This girl's trying to figure out who murdered her friend, and so what do you think might be a underlying meaning in the book? Well, one thing maybe that you could look at is friendship. So, and maybe how friendship and loyalty can last even through challenges like a friend's death. That might be something to explore. So, a good idea is to look at this list of themes and maybe think of one that fits. So, for instance, one that I thought of was friendship and loyalty as soon as you said that. And then also it might be, well, are there any other kind of things that make your book special, perhaps?
And there's 3 friends, and 2 of them were going out until they broke up, and then the guy who got murdered was going out with one of the other friends, and when the girl blamed it on one of her friends.
Okay, so it might also be, you might also think about how, I guess, relationships are complex in that way, because if she's not sure who did it and then there's suspicion cast on nearly everybody, you might think about something like that. But definitely themes like friendship, doubt would be another one, so maybe doubting other people and what they tell her. Yeah, so definitely think about some of those. Okay, and so once you have thought of one of the book's themes, so for instance, the difference between kid reality and adult reality, and provided examples of how the authors demonstrate the theme or themes. Calvin thinks one thing, his parents who are adults think another thing, they really see differently, and then you would want to demonstrate that the themes are meaningful or interesting. So what's so special about a theme in your book? Oh no, I was asking you guys. The example I was using was for my book. So Calvin and Hobbes, the comic book, I was saying the theme, difference between kid reality, adult reality. Example is he sees one thing, his parents who are adults see a different thing. So then you want to demonstrate why the themes are meaningful and interesting. So I might say something like, well, I think that this is an interesting theme because it provides a wonderful view into a kid's imagination that adults might not otherwise have, something like that. So what makes your theme special?
No, I had something to say about provide examples of how of how the author demonstrates this theme or themes.
Okay.
For the book she was telling about, I read that book and I found that a theme could be like, she makes this friend in the book and the friend turns out to be the one that is the murderer, so like, be careful with trust.
Oh, very good. Okay, yeah, actually you should have told me that because that would be a very good one. Betrayal is another one. So you make friends with someone and you think, oh, this is a great person, you trust them, and then they end up betraying that trust. And so, yeah, that would be a very important theme, definitely. Why does that always happen in these murder mysteries? It's like you make friends with someone and then guess what, they kill her. Okay, but anyways, I I'm scared easily, so I don't really read that many missives. So how might you demonstrate that a theme like that perhaps is meaningful or interesting? Any ideas? So in the book Thief, what makes the theme meaningful and interesting? Well, perhaps, since you mentioned, obviously, that they were hiding a Jew in their basement in a time when that would obviously be extraordinarily dangerous, and that theme of choosing between what is right and what is easy, you might demonstrate that that's meaningful or interesting because it maybe taught you something, or it helped you understand kind of the potential of people to help others, or something like that. So you could demonstrate what you learned from the theme, or how the theme made the book more interesting. Those would just be a few questions to ask. So definitely start out, think of a theme from your book. So most themes, when there are people involved, they might have a theme like the importance of friendship, or the importance of loyalty. In Harry Potter has Hermione and Ron, who are his very good friends, and so that's obviously ties into the importance of loyalty and friendship, but then there's also lots of other themes in it. So you might want to think of one or two of the biggest themes, provide examples of how the story demonstrates the theme or themes, and then demonstrate that the themes are meaningful or interesting, maybe what you learned from the theme. One of the main themes in Calvin and Hobbes is, as I was talking about, the difference between kid reality and adult reality. So I know that a lot of you haven't read Calvin and Hobbes, but basically Calvin has this really overactive imagination. And so when he's sitting in class, he imagines that he's this spaceman Spiff, and so he's this astronaut who's out flying to wacky planets. And when his teacher comes over to his desk to reprimand him for daydreaming again, he imagines that he has just crashed on a planet and a giant ugly alien has walked over to him and says something accordingly. So he has that definitely disconnect with kind of the world that adults see. He's in his own little world in his imagination. And so, for instance, here is a example. Here's a comic strip. So Calvin is walking in an art museum. Have any of you ever been to an art museum or maybe seen pictures of like these great statues from Greece and Rome and stuff? Probably a lot of you have. So they're all very strong and they're all standing like that, and none of them are wearing any clothes usually. And so Calvin is walking around looking at these statues and saying, this is supposed to be great art. So why does it look like a bunch of decapitated naked people? And then, which is a feeling some of us may have felt before. Now then it says, a strange feeling comes over Calvin in the art museum. His parents, engrossed in culture, remain blissfully unaware of Calvin's terrible transformation. Yes, a Tyrannosaurus is loose in the art museum. The curator shrieks and pandemonium ensues. So, do you guys get what's happened right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Calvin has just turned into a T-Rex, or at least he thinks so. So a guard reaches for his pistol, but the dinosaur is upon him, and he is mercilessly devoured. The giant lizard's glory is captured, this is a little hard to read, forever on film by the anti-theft cameras. Patrons of the arts flee for their lives. Hundreds of priceless paintings are ripped to shreds. Okay, so Calvin over here has this terrible look on his face because obviously he's imagining all this stuff, so he has like, I'm just trying to recreate the look. So then his dad says, Calvin, we're in the next room now, come on. And then he says, I think we'd better get him out of here. He has that grin again. So this comic strip, at this point right here, it starts becoming the world of Calvin's imagination through here. So you see in these boxes, then it's his imagination running wild. And so all this part is just, the normal adult reality in that part as well. But then in the middle you see the kid reality. So I might use that strip as an example to talk about the difference between kid reality and adult reality. And also about how Calvin's imagination either causes trouble for him or enriches his life. Kind of both ways. When writing about a book's theme, it is important to provide specific examples to prove your point. Why do we need to include examples? Why Why can't we just say the theme is so and so? Well, one reason, when you ask your parents to buy you something, will they buy it for you if you just say, hey, let's get this?
No. You have to be persuasive and explain why.
Exactly. You have to be persuasive and explain why. If I want my mom to buy me brownie mix, then I have to hold up the brownie mix and I have to say, hey mom, look at this. The brownie mix is on sale for 29 cents. It never gets that cheap, but oh. It's on sale for 29 cents, so it's a really good deal. It's much healthier than most of the normal brownie mixes, and it will enable me to make less of a mess next time I make brownies. What's more, it'll be going to a good cause because I'll be baking them for this bake sale to raise money for charity or something like that. So I hold up this brownie mix and I don't just say, let's buy this brownie mix. I say it's cheap, it's for a good cause, and I won't make as much of a mess. So you need to do that sort of the same thing with theme. If you think of theme as your box brownie mix, it's important to provide specific examples to prove your point. You need to show details from the story. Talk about what the characters do in the story in order to prove that point. So, here is an activity. Take out a new sheet of paper, draw a bubble, write your theme in the bubble, connect the bubble to 2 other bubbles. This sounds complicated, so not. In each of these bubbles, list examples from the book that demonstrate the theme. I love the word bubbles. And here's an example. Okay. So, on this piece of paper, or on the board, I've written a theme, the difference between kid reality and adult reality. So this is my theme for Calvin and Hobbes. Now I would add this example. Calvin turns into a T-Rex at the art museum, but his parents don't notice. Here's another example. Calvin thinks that his food is attacking him and he's fighting it off, but his mom thinks he's just making a mess on purpose. So that would be one theme for Calvin and Hobbes. Now, so you want to draw this nice big bubble at the top, write in your theme. So for instance, choosing between what is right and what is easy. Use some examples to back that up. In the book Thief, it might be the example of the family hiding the man in their basement. It might also be, and so that would be one example. What might be another example of that theme? Well, perhaps when your main character runs out to say hello to the man, even though obviously she gets punished for it afterwards because she just knows that that's the right thing to do and she sees him and recognizes him. And so yeah, you might list that as one of those examples. So come up with your theme if you haven't already. It doesn't have to be the most definitive theme, but it should be definitely in your book. So for instance, it might be something like the importance of friendship, coming of age. Try to think if any of these themes apply to your book. So, let's say I did coming of age. Then I might have an example, like, for instance, the main character, I'm just making up a book here, the main character is able to do something that she wasn't able to before, and the main character is able to, understands something that he didn't before, something like that. So that might be an example of coming of age. Would anyone like to share what they're planning on doing for their theme and supporting details?
Coming of age.
Okay, so you're doing coming of age, and what are some details in your book that could support that?
They learn that you should only get what you need and not to bet all kinds of things if you're gonna lose.
Okay, so maybe learning. So that would definitely be a big part of coming of age. You might show that the characters have really learned a lot from their experience. Yeah, very good. finish writing down their bubbles and theme with examples?
Yes.
Okay, would you like to share yours?
My theme is coming of age, and he learns to trust people more, and he also learns don't trust people you don't know.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. Wait, so when you say he learns to trust people more, is there a specific time in the book where he starts trusting people that you can mention?
He started to trust people when their plane crashed.
Oh, okay. What book are you doing?
It's called Jerome Stilton, Murdered on Parrot Island.
Great. Okay. So, yeah, you would see. It's good to provide a specific, even a quote from the book, perhaps describe the scene in which the person starts to trust people, and at the same time share a scene in which he starts not trusting people. So, how do you think this would tie into the theme of coming of age?
Because he learns stuff, like he learns.
Very good. So you would want to put coming of age as learning things which he maybe didn't know when he was younger, before he came of age. Yeah. So very good. Now, so I did another example. So I did Calvin Hobbes, but now I also did Sense and Sensibility. So Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. It's a little bit like Pride and Prejudice, actually. But anyway, so it's about these two sisters, Marianne and Eleanor. And Eleanor is the one who's very sensible, is doing everything in a very practical manner. And then Marianne is the one who's very romantic, and she's like, if you think of it kind of like the artist type and the mathematician type, like one is very orderly and neat in the way she does things, and another one is just, following her heart and just doing whatever. So one theme might be the dangers of following your heart. So a lot of books talk about why it's important to do so. But Marianne ends up getting hurt because she falls in love with someone kind of in a way that's not very rational. And so, yeah, and then she's very hurt later. So, yeah, that would be one theme. And I might back that up with that specific example. Who else would like to share their theme and some examples? Yeah.
Okay, well, just put an exact scene or exact thing that happened that shows that. All ready? Okay. Remember, it's vote to repeat, vote to approve the book, exact thing.
Now, you guys are doing very well, by the way, because a lot of people who are much older than you still have a lot of trouble with theme, because theme is, theme is basically the meaning of the book, but then you get deeper and you're like, well, what exactly is the meaning of the book? Is the meaning of the book this, or is that? And so, yeah, you've done a very good job so far at pinpointing what is the theme of my book. What are some examples to back that up? So, great job. Now, is there anyone who would like to quickly share what their book's theme is, an example to prove that?
The theme of my book is Lost in the Middle of Nowhere. The theme.
I think that should fly.
Yeah, no, there's kind of this, yeah, so this is why theme is extraordinarily challenging, because it's a very blurry line sometimes between theme and plot. And so plot is what happens in your book, right? So that would be plot. Someone gets lost in the middle of nowhere. Very good job. So you can mention that in your plot. It's someone getting lost in the middle of nowhere. Now, what does the person learn maybe from getting lost in the middle of nowhere? Or is there any way that he or she changes over time?
He learns that he needs to get shelter fast.
Okay.
Where he goes, it's fiction,
survive. So that might be a good thing. The importance of adapting to your environment. So what that means is the importance of learning how to live in an area maybe that you're not familiar with. So he has to learn to survive, right?
Yeah.
And so if that was kind of the theme, right? Or the importance, I guess, of being open to change, of being open to learning new things, like how to survive in some place that you've never been before. And so you might give examples, like the 8 feet of snow. It's a very harsh environment and stuff. And talk about how that character has to learn and change in order to deal with that, and why that's so important. So maybe change, the importance of change in order to survive. That would be very good. Okay. So, ultimately, what you choose for your theme, people can't really say, oh, that's no good, but you do want to make sure that you know the difference between theme and genre and plot. So, for instance, if I said that clowns were the theme, that's not quite the theme of the story. That's maybe the characters in the story, but it's not the theme. The theme might be the importance of accepting people even if they're different from you. Just making up a story. So you want to make sure that you've identified exactly what theme is. The theme is that deeper meaning underneath the story. So for instance, in Calvin Hobbes, it's the difference between kid reality and adult reality. In Sense and Sensibility, it might be the dangers of following your heart. In Harry Potter, there are a lot of themes. One might be the unscrupulousness of the media, as we saw from Rita Skeeter. In, what was the book about the guy who has to survive and all the snow and stuff?
What was called Eric Hopkins, in the same series as Colton did.
Oh, okay, great. So then in this one we know that the theme might be something along the lines of the importance of changing and the importance of adapting to your environment, even if it's something that you maybe don't really want to do. So, and then you use that example, 8 feet of snow, all of the unforgiving conditions in order to show what kind of challenge this person has to deal with. So, who would like to give me a theme from the Chronicles of Narnia? Those of you who have read it.
I've never read it.
Oh, okay. What about Charlotte's Web? What's a theme from Charlotte's Web?
Never read it.
I'm sorry?
Friendship.
Very good. Friendship is a big theme in Charlotte's Web. Obviously, if the pig didn't make all these friends, then he wouldn't be alive because his friends were the ones who helped to save him. And so, yeah, definitely the importance of friendship. So when you think about, if it's any easier, you might want to think about themes in other books first. So we talked about themes in Harry Potter, we talked about themes in Calvin Hobbes, and then think, well, what's the theme in my book? What's the big meaning underneath my book? And then come up with examples that help show where that meaning is. Alright, so now that we've done a little bit of practice with theme and an example, here is the project. Take out your response to literature, those of you who have it. Begin a new paragraph, and this paragraph will be about theme. So for instance, I would write one of the book's themes is the difference between kid reality and adult reality. Provide examples to support your theme. So one of the themes in Calvin Hobbes is the difference between kid reality and adult reality. The author demonstrates his theme again and again. For example, so first, just to dissect this a little bit, first state your theme. So this is the theme right here, difference between kid reality and adult reality. Then you want to give examples of where that theme pops up. For example, when Calvin and his parents go to a museum, he turns into T-Rex, they don't notice. You want to have your second example. At one point, Calvin's food turns into a monster, tries to attack him. His mom thinks he's just making a mess of his food. Okay? So here's your structure. You want to state your theme. One of the themes in Sense and Sensibility is the danger of following your heart. The author demonstrates his theme again and again, or whatever. For example, when Marianne falls in love with Willoughby, she is later hurt because he leaves her for, sounds like a, well, it's romance. Okay, well, leaves her for someone else. So I'd use that example. And then I might add another example that would show the danger of following her. In Harry Potter, one of the themes in Harry Potter is the danger of blind obedience. For example, Draco Malfoy following Voldemort, and he ends up in a worse position than he was when he was, because he's just listening to what Voldemort says instead of thinking for himself. So that might be an example. Now, when you're writing this, start with, what is my theme? Write down your theme. 2 examples. You should have done that in the bubbles already. Just put it in the paragraph form, write it out. Then describe why the theme is meaningful to you and why it might be meaningful to others. Why do you want to describe why it might be meaningful to others?
To interest them.
Exactly, interest them. So your response to literature wants to get other people to read your book or show them why you like it. And so you want to describe why it would be meaningful to others. I would put, being a kid, I can relate to Calvin's imagination and the ways it gets him in trouble. I'm sure a lot of young readers feel the same way. But Calvin and Hobbes isn't just for kids. I think that it's important for adults to read Calvin and Hobbes because it might remind them that the world is more fun when you let your imagination run wild. Then, this is a little cramped, I'm sorry, it's probably impossible to read for you guys, but this would be my completed paragraph. So I start out, again, describe what is the theme. I answer that question. Then I give this example, another example. Then I put how I relate to the theme. So, Example 1, example 2, I relate to this, other people can relate to this. That's kind of the structure, basically, that I followed right here. So, you guys have already pretty much, in your bubbles, when you wrote down your theme and examples to support that, all you want to do is write that out, and then write why the theme relates to you and why other people why that theme might interest other people. But I know that this is, I believe, our last session, and so I wanted to hear your response to literatures so far. Would anyone like to read their response to literature? It doesn't have to have the paragraph about theme in it yet, but your hook, introduction. Let's get one person read their response to literature so far.
Okay. Imagine if 2 people could screw up so bad that they would have to do the dishes for the rest of their lives. In this book, there is a race of cows. Everybody bets on cows, but Smiley and Phony make up the mystery cow. And they make everyone bet on them, and they lose the race and have to wash the dishes for the rest of their lives. The setting in this book makes it more interesting by being afraid and wondering what will happen next in the book, because there are rat creatures in the woods all the very small villages are in the woods as well. They have led a life of poverty before the book. I am not a little bit the same as the main characters in the book because they are in love with everything and they are really scared. And in this book, the protagonist is Phone. He is white and has a big nose, and the antagonist is the Lord of the Locust. He looks like a Grim Reaper, and he controls the rat creatures. I found that all the characters were not real because they are all not real in real life, except for Grandma Ben and Thorn because they are real people. And one of the themes is coming of age in this book. In the book, when it is time, when the end, and Phony and Smiley have to do the dishes for the rest of their lives. And they need to grow up and stop acting very childish. Another thing is that they should not bet a lot of things until you are sure that you will win, so you don't lose a lot of different things. And that's it.
Very nice. Okay, so that is a wonderful example. So I definitely see your paragraph number 1. You have your hook, you have your introduction, you're giving that little summary of the book, and then you're moving on to plot, what happens in the book. and your setting and the characters, and you even include the theme. Excellent job. So one thing that you might want to work on, just because obviously this is a rough draft and it can always get better, so it's very good so far. Now one thing you might want to work on is the transitions between your paragraphs, so maybe making that a little smoother, because it might be a little abrupt in spots. But other than that, it's excellent job. And so is there any way we can have one more person read a little bit of theirs?
Sure. Is that another one?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't have the theme one, right? So this is four paragraphs? Okay.
Would you want to be a dog in a bobsled team? In the book, The Call of the Wild by Jack London is a story that takes place in the far north where it's cold and dangerous. In this story, there's a dog named Buck that gets sold several times after he is stolen from his owner. Buck was a normal dog that lived with a rich owner, but now Buck is a brave sled dog that fights for survival and food. In this story, Buck goes on many adventures with his owner and makes lots of new friends. I recommend this book to anyone who loves animals and adventures.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Okay, so now, if you have not already, you would want to add your paragraph about theme to your response to literature. So you begin a new paragraph, state one of the themes from the book, give an example to support the theme, and finally explain what's so great about the theme, what's special and meaningful about it. But that's all the time we have. Are there any quick questions I can answer before I go?
Did you watch hockey last night?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. All I watched was the news. I didn't watch too much TV last night. I was mostly doing math.
Are you homeschooled or do you go to a real school?
I go to an online public school, so it is the curriculum I get on my computer. I still have to do homework and turn in tests and stuff like that. But it is mostly taking place at home, so I guess you could call it kind of homeschool. We do have teachers and field trips and stuff, so it's a lot like a brick and mortar school.
Cool. Yeah, that is cool.
And one last question.
Any more?
Do you want to come visit us?
I would love to if I'm ever in Quebec. Now, you did say that you're in the middle of nowhere, so it might take a little bit of work to find you. But definitely I'll let you know if I'm ever in Quebec. The closest I'm getting is Toronto. Usually, when my family goes on vacation to Canada, we always go up to British Columbia. That's because it's about a 3-hour drive. But we've never been to Quebec, so I'd really love to visit. I'll have to work on my French a little bit first.